Greetings everyone, Arnel V. Mendoza here from STEM 11 Euclid. As this video goes through, I will help you to elucidate your knowledge and prosper your skills in connection with our lesson for today, which is all about chess. Just bear with me till the end of this lesson to learn more. I guess most of you already have some ideas on how to play chess, how every chess piece moves and captures, what the rules are, and how the game ends. But did you know where it came from, or when this game originated? If you didn't, let me tell you about its story. The history of chess can be traced back in 6th century, believed to have originated in India, where it was known as Chaturanga, literally means four divisions of Indian military, namely the infantry, cavalry, elephants, and chariotry, represented by the pieces that would evolve into the modern pawn, knight, bishop, and rook respectively. The earliest evidence of the game is found in Persia around 600 AD, where it came to be known as Shatrang, which subsequently evolved to Shatranj in Arab-speaking countries. Fast forward to 15th century, when the rules of Shatranj started to be modified in Europe, which was replaced by versions of Persian word Shah means king, and several changes made the game essentially as it is known today, until they called it chess, derived from the French word échec. Whilst in 19th century, the Romantic era of chess began. Chess games of this period emphasized quick, tactical maneuvers than long-term strategic planning. The modified game rules were prevalent from post-World War II up to the present. Before I discuss the movements, let us first have a glimpse of the game setup. Chess is played on a square board of 8 columns called fans that move up and down, denoted from letters A to H, and 8 rows that go side to side across the chessboard, called ranks represented by numbers 1 to 8. The chessboard is placed between two opposing players in such a way that the light or white square is at the right-hand corner nearest to each player. Basically, the chess game pieces are divided into white and black sets. Each set consists of 16 pieces with 1 king and 1 queen, 2 knights, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, and 8 pawns. The initial position of the game goes like this, where in the first row you have the pattern rook, knight, bishop, queen, king, bishop, knight, and rook, while all pawns are positioned on the second row. From here on, we will talk about the movement or the motions of the chess pieces aforementioned, and also how they capture the opposing piece attacking them. Firstly, we have the pawn. A pawn is the only piece that doesn't capture the same way it moves. Normally, a pawn moves one square forward. When it comes to capturing, let's say for instance that this is your enemy's pawn, a pawn captures diagonally by occupying the space of the opposing piece. On its first move, a pawn has the option to advance 2 squares forward. But on succeeding moves, it only jumps 1 square at a time. Next is the rook. Basically, a rook can move any number of squares vertically or horizontally. Thus, it cannot leave other pieces. As how it moves, it also captures horizontally by occupying the square on which the enemy sits. It can also be done vertically like this. Moving on to the next piece, which is the knight. Compared to all other pieces, a knight has a unique motion, as it may move 2 squares vertically, 1, 2, and 1 square horizontally, whether to the left or to the right. It can also be 2 squares horizontally, 1, 2, and move formed an L-shaped pattern for the knight. One more. 2 squares vertically, 1, 2. 1 square horizontally. Or 2 squares horizontally, 2, 1 vertically. It also captures the same way it moves by occupying the space or the square of the opposing piece. 1, 2, 1. Then we can take the enemy's knight. Bishop is the next piece. It can move as far as it wants following a diagonal path. This. It also captures the same way, diagonally, and filling up the square of the piece you are capturing. Accordingly, a bishop can only move one color from where it starts. Just like any other pieces, a bishop cannot leap or skip other pieces. It can only move far free if there is none blocking its way. The fifth one is the queen. The queen is believed to be the most powerful chess piece, as it can move freely in any directions, such as diagonally, vertically, or even horizontally. As long as there is no hindrance to its way, it also captures the same way, whether diagonally, vertically, or horizontally. Apparently, the movement of the queen is the union of the power of the rook and bishop. Hence, it cannot hurdle any other pieces. Lastly, pick up the king. The king can only move this one square at a time, yet in any direction, whether diagonally, vertically, or horizontally, unless the move would place the king on the square where it might be captured or in check. Hence, you cannot place the king here because the enemy's bishop is threatening your king. Now that you already know the movements of the chess pieces, let us now talk about the special moves that can be done in chess, which include castling, and Bazan, and promotion. There's this special move that involves the king and the rook, which is referred to as castling. Primarily, castling is a move where the king and either of the rook change positions. It works by means of moving the king 2 squares towards the rook and the rook jumps over the king. Let's say for example, you want to perform castling in this side. The king moves 2 squares towards the rook, 1, 2, and the rook jumps over the king. Let's do it one more time with this side. The king moves 2 squares towards the rook, 1, 2, and the rook jumps over the king. Nevertheless, to perform castling, you should consider the following rules. First, the king and the rook are in their original position and no move has been done on either of the two. In this side, you cannot perform castling anymore because the rook has already moved 1 square from its original position. Even if you move it back, you cannot also perform castling because a move has been already done. Second, the squares between the king and either of the rook are not occupied. Like here, you cannot perform castling because there's a bishop blocking their way to change positions. Third, the king cannot be in check. For this scenario, you cannot perform castling on both white sides because there's a queen threatening your king. Third, the king cannot be in check. For this scenario, you cannot perform castling on both white sides because there's a queen threatening your king. In other words, your king is under attack or is in check by the enemy's queen. That forbids you to perform the special move. Lastly, the squares that the king passes over must not be under attack or the square where it lands on. Let's say for instance, this is the setting. You cannot perform castling here because this is where which the king will pass through is under attack by the enemy's bishop. Then, if you perform the move, it will place the king in check by the enemy's knight, which is not allowed in chess. The next special move is turned as Untitled. It is a special pawn move which literally means impassing and a common misconception in chess. You can make an Untitled capture when the opponent's pawn advances 2 squares on its first move and landed right next to your pawn. Consequently, you have the option to capture the enemy's pawn by moving your pawn diagonally. And you can take the enemy's pawn thanks to the Untitled capture. Let's do it one more time. If you advance 2 squares and landed right next to your opponent's pawn, then it has the option to capture you by moving the piece diagonally using the Untitled capture. The result is the same as if the rival pawn had only advanced 1 square and you had captured it normally. The move must be done on the next turn or the right to do so is lost. The last special move is called the promotion. Simply put, promotion is the promotion of the pawn when it reaches the 8th rank or the other side of the board. Let's say for example, all these black pawns coming up from here reaches the 8th rank, so they can be replaced to a bishop, to a knight, to a rook, or to a queen of the same color as per the player's choice. So these pawns will be gone as they got promoted. Another example, this white pawn coming down from here reaches the 8th rank, so each can be promoted to a queen, knight, rook, or a bishop. In the same manner, a pawn cannot be promoted to a king or to one another pawn, of course. When a player's king is under threat of capture on their opponent's next turn, it is said to be in check. If the king is in check, the player must take an action of it first. A move in response to a check is only legal if it results in a position where the king is no longer in check. With that being said, there are 3 ways to get out of check. In this example, if you notice that there's a black bishop threatening the white king. In other words, the king is in check by the rival piece. So the first way to get out of the check is to move the king on a square where it is out of the checking piece alignment. Let's look into the squares adjacent to the king's spot. You cannot place the king here because this square is under attack by the enemy's queen. Also in this square because it is still aligned with the enemy's bishop. Square is also not available for the king. While this one, if you move the king here, you could get out of the check. This square also, because it is out of the checking pieces alignment. While this square is also aligned to the enemy's bishop, so you could not place the king here. While this one is also out of the checking pieces alignment. The red pins indicates that you cannot move the king on that square because it would place the king when in check, while the yellow ones are the room available for the king. The second way to get the king out of check is to capture the checking piece. Using the same scenario wherein the white king is in check by the black bishop, you can capture the bishop to withdraw your enemy's check using your knight, as it may move an L-shaped pattern, hence it can reach the capturing pieces square. Then, there's no more black bishop attacking your king. The third and the last one is to place another chess piece to block the way of the checking piece threatening the king. Still on the same example, wherein the white king is in check by the black bishop, you can advance this pawn 2 squares forward as it is on its initial position. 1, 2. Then, the king is no longer in check because there's already a hindrance between the checking piece and the king. On the other hand, the objective of the game is to checkmate the king of your opponent. Checkmate occurs when a player's king is in check and it has no other legal move to avoid or escape the threat no matter what he does. In this example, as you can see, the black king is in check by the white knight. You are now thinking getting out of the check, applying the three ways I have mentioned a while ago. However, you cannot capture the checking piece because you don't have enough pieces to do so, or block the way of the knight, for the reason that it has the power to leave on other pieces. So the only choice you have is to move the king on the adjacent squares. Let's look into the squares the king can hop on. Apparently, the king can move on any squares around it, but in this case, it cannot be placed on this square, here, or this square, because these three are all aligned to the enemy's row. While these squares are also not available for the king to sat on, because they are aligned to the enemy's queen this time. These squares are also not placed for the king to move on because either of the move would also place the king in check. Therefore, the game is over because the king cannot get out of being captured. That's what you call checkmate. In some cases, the game will be considered as a draw, which means none of the two players won under different circumstances. 1. Draw by consent of both players. A draw is achieved if there's a mutual agreement between the players to end the game as a draw. Number 2. Draw due to insufficient chess piece or force. It is commonly known as a stalemate. It is a situation in the game where the player whose turn it is to move has no other legal move but is in check. For example, it is black to move. The king isn't in check, but the player has no other legal move to do, because if he moves the bishop in any diagonal path, it would place the king in check by the enemy's row. While, if he placed the king on either on these two squares, the move would place the king on check by the enemy's queen. Therefore, black is stalemated and the game ends as a draw. Number 3. Draw by 50 move rule. It states that the player can claim a draw if no capture has been made and no pawn has been moved in the last 50 moves of the king when it is the only piece you are moving or is left legally to move. Number 4. Draw by repetition. It happens in chess due to the threefold repetition rule. It says that if the same position arises 3 times in the game, then either player can claim a draw during that position. Number 5. Draw by perpetual check. It is a situation in which a player can force a draw by an unending series of checks. This typically occurs when the player who is checking cannot deliver checkmate. Most people hate the idea of playing chess, as they thought that the game is only for smart people. Notwithstanding that idea, chess has a lot of benefits to offer to its players. So here are some top benefits of playing chess based on my own perspective. In terms of mental skills, chess increases memory capacity. Chess increases your intelligence. Playing chess elevates your creativity. With chess, you develop your cognitive abilities, including problem solving, decision making, and critical or logical thinking. Chess improves your concentration and helps you focus.